Hello, everyone. Welcome to Author Tidbits. Today I have my good friend Shaela K. Odd, who is here with me.
Yay.
And for anyone who's read my books and looked in the front cover, they probably know Shaela off of her business name, which is Blue Water Books, who has I think you've done almost all of my covers except for maybe my maps. And maybe
Yeah,
even some of
we've done a
those,
lot.
actually.
Yeah, a few of them.
So we have quite the extensive business relationship.
Professional relationship,
Yes.
yes.
But I also
And
think I
friendship.
like to think we're friends too,
Yes,
outside of
we are
business.
totally friends, Mindy.
So anyway, so today we're going to kind of talk about covers, because covers I find fascinating, because in my head I am an artist. Doesn't always translate, and
Yes.
especially in covers. I don't know why. I know what I like, I think, in covers,
Mhm,
but I'm not sure I know why I like them. And I
mhm,
don't know that I do great with, I don't know if I have poor depth perception as a general rule. And so I don't know if that plays a part into it as to like
mhm.
how to get the depth perception right. So anyway, that's why I don't do my own covers, needless to say, because I attempt and then I go, because I always go, this can't be that hard. And then I go, oh, but it is.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how to pick like what the right background is for the right person. So we are going to talk to Shaela about that today.
Yeah.
So I think my first question for you is, did you go to school for design, or is this something that you've self-taught?
I didn't go to school for graphic design. I always wanted to. It's something that, I mean, ever since I was a kid, like I would design posters and flyers and like just random stuff, like not for assignments. I would just do it because I wanted to. And when I got to college, I considered both graphic design and interior design because I really liked both of those things. But my my practical brain was like, oh, you can't make money as a graphic designer. You can't make money as an interior designer. It's like only the elite. I was like, only the elite really do it. And so I was like, I'm going to be practical and be a teacher. And like, that's what I'm going to go to school
Because you make
for.
so much money at that.
Right.
There
But
is irony in that, actually.
I know. But I was like, but at least it's a job. Like you always need teachers, right? So um so I didn't go to school for it, but it's something that I always did. And then when I started writing seriously, um, I thought about doing my own covers because I was like, I've always liked this, and and I have an eye for design, and so I watched some YouTube videos and I learned some stuff, and I had learned like Photoshop and those kinds of things when I was in college. I learned how to use them. Um, and so I just started playing around with my first covers, and I was very self-conscious about it because I was like, okay, if these don't look professional, I am not going to use them or do them. I was like, oh, we're just going to try this out and kind of see how it goes. And then it just kind of snowballed from there as I took more classes, I joined some groups, I self-taught. A lot of it is just, like anything, you have to practice and you have to learn, and YouTube is awesome. Like there's so many tutorials on
Yeah.
YouTube for stuff.
Which
So
were your first covers? Were they your like Rodden?
yeah, so A Heart Made of Indigo
That was
was my first one. Like the old cover of that one was my first one. Um, and then Scoundrel in Disguise. And then I had friends who started asking me, and I was like, no, I'm not a cover designer. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing my own thing. But yeah. So
and then it parlayed into a business.
it did. It did.
That's interesting. Okay,
It's
so
fun.
this you kind of I think answered my next question, which is, did you write first or cover design first? But you wrote first.
I wrote first, yeah, before cover design. But I mean, I've always kind of like with writing, I've been writing ever since I've been reading. So, like,
Yeah.
since I was a little child, just like I've been doing like art and like design stuff ever since I was little too. But it didn't like all become real until I was an adult. And yeah, writing came first.
So
So.
this isn't one of my pre-done questions, but now I'm just curious. So, do you like paint? Are you like a painter artist or are
No. Well,
okay.
so when I was in school, I was the charge painter for the theater department. So I was a theater English major and I painted the sets. And so I can paint, but I don't paint like pictures.
Yeah.
Like I can't paint pictures. I paint I do faux work. And so like I could paint a wall to look like stone, or I could paint the
Mhm.
floor to look like wood, or so like I learned how to do that in school, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and I think that definitely helped with some of my skills. But I'm not an illustrator, painter type person, so I manipulate. I'm really good at manipulating stuff.
I think that's I think it's so interesting because I think some people think if you're good in one art, you're good in all arts kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, I am not. I
And
stick figures is kind of my
yeah,
thing.
that's what I say. Like in my head, I have like um there's this one painting I've wanted to do since I was like 18
Hmm.
because I went to the Soviet Union when I was 16. And at one of the places we were at, then there was just the most amazing sunset. And there was this, wrought iron gate that was in it. So it was blacked out. And
Hmm.
it was just so pretty. And I wanted to either paint it and in my head, I have like painted it or
Hmm.
colored penciled it over and over and over again. And I'm like, now it's kind of like we were talking about before. Now I just don't even think I could attempt it because I
Hmm.
just am so it will be terrible, and then I'll just be like so wah wah, you know.
Yeah, I definitely have those things too, where it's like I picture it in my mind, and
Mm-hmm.
then when I try and create it, it's like, oh yeah, that's not what I was thinking, and that's not going to work. And
Yeah,
yeah.
my husband, I do that all the time. He'll always be like, "I thought you were doing such and such today," and I'll be like, "I did," and he's like, "Well, where is it?" I threw it away. He's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because it wasn't good. It did not turn out like I thought it would." And he's always like,
Yeah.
"Oh my heck, you are too hard on yourself." And I'm like, "No, it really wasn't good. I promise." Okay, so with you having turned it into a business,
Hmm.
how closely do you watch the market, the cover markets?
Pretty close because covers are a marketing tool. They're the number one marketing tool for books, and the trends change within the genre. They don't change like overnight, but they do change pretty quickly. They say that traditionally published books have like a 6-month lifespan,
Mm,
basically, and so the market is generally dominate like um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's generally dictated by the traditional market. I mean, the indie market definitely is getting a lot more traction, and they have been able to start their own trends that have
mhm,
infiltrated the market. But for the most part, trends are set by the traditional companies. And since books usually have a 6-month lifespan, they turn over pretty quick. So I spend time every month. I don't get to it every week just because sometimes life gets busy, but I spend time every month looking at bestseller lists, both indie and traditional bestseller lists, and making note of cover design trends. And I'm not always 100% accurate, but I'm pretty good at picking out like which trends are good and are going to stick around, and which ones are just awful and are going to flop. So
yeah.
so yeah, it's kind of
So,
what I do.
I keep doing this. I think of questions while you're talking, and then they flee my brain because it's
Oh.
so minute these days. Um, so, okay, it'll come to me.
Okay.
We'll come back to it. Um, so, when you're looking at those trends, do those kind of start to form some of your ideas? Do you like look at them and then go, "Oh, I would do something like that, but change it," or do your ideas come completely different? Like,
Kind of a mix. It depends on the genre, it depends on the book, it depends on the client. Um, I have a saying that I tell my clients that the cover is meant to sell the story, not tell the story. because that is what a cover is supposed to do. It's a marketing tool, and the whole point of it is to catch the reader's eye and get them to want to read your book. And so that's I mean, and it has to do other things too, but that's like the main purpose. But sometimes I have any clients who like they have a certain vision. They really, really want their cover to look a certain way or
Yeah.
have certain elements on it. And it's my job as a designer to kind of help steer them in the right direction, but ultimately they're the boss. So I try
Unfortunately.
and yeah, try and do what they want.
I
But
remember with my first book, it wasn't with you, it was with my very first cover designer. Then my book was an American in Duke's Clothing, and so it was about an American who had to move to England. And so I was like, I really want it to have like an American and a British flag like fused together as a background. And she was like, okay. So she started doing it, and she would send me stuff, and I was like, this is horrible. This is ghastly.
yeah.
And finally she was
Yep.
like, is this really what you want? And I was like, no, bag it. Just be done. This is
Yeah.
apparently not going to work the way my mind thinks it should.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So I definitely like when I'm looking at the market, when I'm looking at trends, they definitely do spark ideas. Like I see stuff, especially um, certain ones that I have liked that it's like it's fun to see them, the trends like pick up more traction and it's like, oh yay, like I can do, more of this or, things like that. But I also do have um in certain genres, the market gets really saturated. And the cover, there's a really fine line between standing out and blending in. And you want to walk that line because
right.
you want to make sure that your readers know, like, what genre it is, your audience, like all that kind of stuff. But you also don't want it to look like all the other covers so that people forget it or, that their eyes just go past it. Like, it does need to stand out. So,
Because one
um,
shirtless man just looks like the next after a while.
exactly. Yep. So I've definitely been challenged with some genres to think outside the box,
Yeah.
and bless my clients that trust me for for taking them in a different direction than maybe what they were expecting or whatever. And for the most part, it's been good.
Have you found that you've set any trends?
Yes, actually. So Sally Britton was one of my first clients with her first book. And I wasn't actually her first cover designer. She had another one, but we were friends. And so she came to me and we kind of talked over stuff. And it was early in my career and it was early in her career. And we were like, you know what? Let's kind of see if we can do something different because at that time, the covers, the traditional covers looked one way, historical romance, and the indie covers kind of looked a different way. And I was like, well, we don't have the funds to do like, more like the traditional. I was like, but we can do something a little bit different that I think is going to do really great. And so she trusted me and um, we started off and she had such huge success. It kind of launched her career and my career at the same time. And within about 6 months, we saw that a lot of the new covers coming out were looking very similar to the style. Like they had shifted in style to mimic more of what Sally and I had done. And it was really cool. And I had people like Sally and I saw it, but we were like, oh, it's probably just because we see, it's
Mm-hmm.
we see it, because we want to see it. But I had people like not even in the genre who found out I did the covers and they're like, you like set that new trend. And I was like, oh,
So
that's
was that the Branches
so
of
cool.
Love series?
Yep. Yeah, the
Yeah.
branches of love.
So,
So
um, what about her watercolor?
the
Was that an
watercolor.
upcoming phase, or was that more of a new?
So that was kind of a new thing. So that was another one that Sally was like that I talked to her about, and she's like, well, I trust you, like we'll do whatever. And it's something that I had wanted to do. So when I redid my covers for my 3 historical romances, and I did like a silhouette watercolor type
Mm,
trend because it's something that I had been seeing in trends, that it wasn't very common, but it was something really new, and it still, did everything that a cover is supposed to do, and I really liked it. And I was like, this would be a really great way to stand out, from everything else in the market, but still convey what it needs to be. So we did those watercolor ones. She absolutely loved them. I love them too. I think
yeah,
they're really pretty and elegant, and they're different. And so that's kind of been another, we didn't set that trend, but I think it has definitely like influenced the market. There's a lot more covers like
yeah.
that have come
Well,
out.
I have some
So
like that.
yeah. Yeah.
We must use the same cover designer.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's, honestly, that's a tricky thing for me to do is when I have multiple clients in the same genre.
Yeah,
It's like, I don't want all their books to look the same. They
right.
shouldn't all look the same. And then even when you have one client who writes multiple series in the same genre, it's like, how much do you want them to look alike? How much do you want them to stand out? So
Yeah.
it's definitely a balancing act.
Which I mean, I've heard readers that are like, I wish I like to see faces, which I'm like, well, then you don't like any of my books because I chop off their heads
Yep.
because I don't like
and
faces
and
myself.
that's yeah, faces
So
is a thing that is very much like it's just preference. A lot of readers like them, a lot of readers don't. A lot of authors like them, a lot of authors don't. So I'm with you. I prefer no faces.
yeah, because I'm like I want my head to figure out what they look like when
Yes.
I'm reading it, rather than
Yep.
being predisposed to say
Yep.
this is what they are.
Yep.
Plus, it's also somewhat hard to find exactly what your character is going to look like in stock
Yep.
photos or in. So, but
It is.
I will say I know a lot of readers like real people on the covers.
Mhm.
I myself, I quite like the silhouettes and the. I don't know why. Maybe because of the
Mhm.
color. I love the pops of color that you get with
Yeah.
so much of them. So I don't know, but
Mhm.
um, I can't believe I. Anyway, all right. Well, they'll just come. Um, so, what genres do you typically do? Do you do pretty much any genre, or do you pretty much stick to only certain ones?
No, so when I started out, I was like, I'll just kind of do any genre except, not erotica. But I learned very quickly that, I mean, kind of with most things, I think that, if you spread yourself too thin, you're never going to get really good at what you do. It's like if you're trying to do so many things at once. And so I have done a lot of different genres. I've done nonfiction, I've done fantasy, I've done like historical, I've done romance, I've done thriller, I haven't done sci-fi. I probably won't go there, but anyways, I've done a lot, but I narrowed it down pretty quick. That I mostly do romance. I do contemporary, a lot of contemporary romance, a lot of historical romance. Um, I do some nonfiction. I don't have a ton of nonfiction clients, but romance is usually, contemporary and historical is kind of what my main focus is on. I do women's fiction too. That's another one. I do a lot of women's fiction.
How does women's fiction differ cover wise as opposed to like romance?
So romance almost always has people on the cover, like a couple or a woman or a man or whatever. Women's fiction sometimes sometimes will have people on the cover, oftentimes not. And if there are people on the cover, it's not a couple usually. So like historical women's fiction often has it's kind of a joke in the design community, like a woman walking away is like the look for historical women's fiction. Um,
Okay.
that's like that just tends to be what it is. But women's fiction will have a lot of like scenery.
Scenery.
Yeah, so you'll do a lot of scenery. You'll see houses. You'll see,
Coves.
sunsets and Yeah, coves, lots of
Coves
like
are big.
beachy. Yep. That kind of stuff.
So
So,
if you're designing based on current trends, then I'm
mhm.
kind of your nightmare a lot of the time, aren't I? Because I will get covers and then I will not actually put the book out for years on end, which means I'm
Well,
probably maybe I'm reinventing, I'm bringing it back around when I
there you
finally do
go.
publish.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know. That
Well, and some trends, within some genres are kind of they quickly come and go, and others stick around for a long time. I mean, there are lots of genres that have trends that have stuck around for several years. And those are actually really great when you have kind of more timeless trends because then you don't have to worry about recovering a book so soon, or you don't have to worry about getting it out so soon.
I
So,
was going to say, do you find that there are trends within certain genres that are just kind of classic, that they probably never will go out of style?
um,
Because I look at, you know what ones I'm thinking about, of the ones you did for me, and I look at those and I go, I can't see that they like are necessarily a trend. You know, there's no people on them. They're
mhm,
just a graphic design basically, right?
mhm, yeah,
And they're very reminiscent, I think, of like the old embossed leather kinds of things.
yeah, classic books,
So,
yeah.
what do you think? I mean, is that something that is there a classic that just kind of is always going to be a standard?
So, if you think about classic literature and books that have been around for decades or centuries, you look at obviously the book was written, 200 years ago, but publishers are still publishing the book. And what did the covers look like now? And what have the covers
Yeah.
looked like 10 years ago? So, I think that there are some timeless um, looks that cover a good length of time.
Hmm.
But I think it's just like all fashion, like all art, it's just kind of like they kind of there is a time limit. So, I wouldn't recommend, if you look at any books from the 80s, I don't think there are any good covers left from books that were published
It
in
was
the
only a
80s
mute. It was only a
or the
music decade. Everything
you
else
know,
pretty much could
or
go.
the 70s. It's like, but I would agree, that a lot of the classic styles that are more design based, that are more like elegant and things, those are less trendy and more just kind of classic. So, but a lot of authors are are chasing the trends
Yeah,
because that's kind of where the money is. So it just depends on what you're looking for, what you're
because
after.
algorithms pick up trends, not necessarily
Mhm.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Do okay, so that do algorithms play into covers at all? Do you know? I mean, are there bots that can actually decipher covers and start to do you
I
know?
don't know. I actually don't know if there are bots. I mean, from what I've observed, algorithms and everything are more they deal more with like how the author or publisher has marketed, and like the keywords and the also bots. So it's less about what it looks like and more about like how it's tagged and clicked. And so I mean cover design definitely plays a role in that because
Right.
if you have an ugly cover, like people aren't going to click, they're not going to care. But
So the
yeah,
the algorithm would be more based on people looking at the cover and seeing it like
yeah,
with
people,
other like covers, and so
yeah,
gotcha. That makes
yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
Um, I had a question. Oh my goodness, I had a question a little bit ago, and I keep thinking it's going to come back to me, but it doesn't. It's
Oh.
not. It's tough to be me. If you haven't already realized that, it will not take long. Um, how many clients do you currently have?
Oh, um, so I shut my doors a couple years ago to new clients, kind of when my health took a dive.
Yeah.
And I whittled down from, I had over 100 active clients,
Holy
and I
cow.
whittled, yeah, yeah, it was a lot. And I whittled it down to, I had 12. I kept around 12 solid clients. And then my other clients, like I was finishing up projects for them, but it was kind of like, I'm not going to start anything new. Um, and so I kind of did that for a couple years. And then um, late last year, I opened my doors again to new clients and new designs. And so some of my past clients came back. They were like, "Oh, yay, you're back. I have some more stuff I want you to do." And then I have new clients again. So oh, I'm probably up around the 30. I probably have 30 active clients right now, and it's pretty good. I'm not designing as much as I used to. I was almost full time before, but with my health and my family, I'm far more part time now. So
Well, that's good. If that,
yeah.
I will say, I think that you're in a great position where you can kind of take on as much as you want, but yet also you kind of dictate how busy you want to be.
Yes,
I would
yeah,
think.
and yes, and it took a while to get there. I mean, when I had, like I said, when I had over 100 clients, I was booked out almost a solid year
Yeah, I
because
remember.
it. Yeah, poor
That's
Mindy's
why I
like, I
have
need
covers
to go.
that I still haven't written because I was like,
Yep.
oh my heck, I better get this because I'm going to write. And then I was like, yeah, I'm not writing it this year. So,
Yeah. So it's a lot nicer now to just to have less, and I don't take all new clients now. I definitely do pick and choose, and I want to make sure that I'm a good fit for the author and the author's going to be a good fit for me, and it's nice. I will say though, the cover design industry as a whole has kind of been flipped on its head since AI
yeah,
has come on, and it's like it's rough. There are a lot of designers, myself included, that are struggling because a
oh,
lot
so
of
you've noticed
authors.
a difference even already,
Oh,
huh?
huge difference. Yes, yeah, big, big difference. We talk about it a lot in the design industry in the circles that we're in, and
Is it
yeah,
only affecting certain genres or is it kind of across the
not.
board?
It's across the board. Yeah, I know. I have a lot of designer friends that do fantasy and sci-fi, and a lot that do historical and contemporary romance, and like all of us, all of them. I think the only ones that that maybe aren't seeing it as much are probably like the custom illustrators who actually like paint and draw. Um, but those, I mean, those designers, those illustrators are, they have a really solid clientele because they're, custom drawn, illustrated,
Right.
and, you know, so their clients can't get work AI. So,
Yeah. That's so interesting. Because I mean, that's AI is right now, I think, rocking most all of the
yeah,
creative industries, right?
yes.
It's
Mhm.
a big thing within the author industry as well.
Mhm.
And like narration, it's a huge
Mhm.
thing, which I
Yeah.
know that there are a lot of, but still within narration, AI cannot compete with human
Right.
because human still does multiple voices for multiple characters and
Mhm.
the inflections in the right places and which AI is still
Mhm.
struggling with. But
Right.
it seems like AI with art, graphic art especially,
Mhm.
has has gotten to a point where it replaces the human factor a little bit easier than it does in some of the other areas yet, which is sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I'm not jumping to AI, Shayla.
Okay,
I'm with
good.
you. I'm with you because I still have 4 covers left in this series that you need to
Yeah.
figure out. So anyway, yeah. No, but I will say like finding a good cover designer is hard. It's almost like finding a pediatrician for your kids. Like it's right up there. And
Yeah.
I'm always surprised um how many like Facebook posts there are on I need a good cover designer. Does anyone know of a good cover designer? How many of those there
Mhm.
still are.
Mhm.
So it's a high
Well,
demand.
it is. There are a lot of factors that go into finding a cover designer. I mean, you have to look at, price.
Hmm.
Are they in your price point? You have to look at, like, are they good at, the genre that you're looking for, how well they follow the market and trends, and and how well you work together. So
Yeah.
I think, like you said, finding a good pediatrician or doctor or anything, it's the same kind of process. It's,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to shop around and
And
see what you can
trial and
find.
error.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, I don't think you realize how much communication also plays a role,
Oh
you know?
yeah. Yeah. Communication is big, and I feel like um, designers are very much like authors, that we're in different skill sets, and we're all at different levels, varying levels. And so a lot of times, authors will start with one designer, and even if it's a great relationship, the author may outgrow
Yeah.
the designer and then move on. And, and that's where, it's a business. And so business relationships grow and change. And,
Yeah.
it's just part of the industry.
Yeah. I know. Well, as long as you'll be like, as I'm like, oh crap, this isn't going to fit. How do I do this? Because every stinking site needs a different size of cover.
Oh,
Why
yes.
can they not just be like general? This is
I don't know.
standard. But no,
Yeah,
they're
it
all
would be
different.
nice.
And so, but I don't ever know that until I'm trying to upload, and then it's somewhat a crisis. And I'm like, but you'd be very proud of me. I changed the size on Canva the other day of one of mine to
Good
fit
for
on.
you.
I know. I was like, oh, well, Shayla, I think would be proud of me, or she'd be like, no, I could have like charged you for that.
Oh no.
Just kidding.
No, there's, sometimes I have clients that ask like pixels off, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, if you could literally just open Paint, you could resize this yourself.
I know, which that was me for a while, and then I figured out I could maybe do that on
Yeah.
Canva, and I did it, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, way to
Yeah.
go, me.
Yeah.
You can
It's okay
teach
though.
this dog some old tricks
Yes.
or new tricks. I don't know what kind of tricks they are. They're probably old for a lot of people, which that's
Yeah.
part of my problem, I will say, is in doing why I have such a struggle. It is a real struggle with cover design is because um, Photoshop baffles me. Like I
Mm.
have watched so many YouTube videos, and it's like it just seriously goes in one ear and out the. I watch it and I'm like, okay, okay, how do you do that? I have no idea how you do that. Like I just don't get it, and so I leave it to the professionals.
Yeah.
That is
I'm a
when I'm
very
not quitting my day job.
yeah. I'm a very hands-on learner. So like even when I watch tutorials in Photoshop, like I always have a separate like my own Photoshop open
Yeah,
and the tutorial open, and I'm doing it right along with them. And a lot of it too is repetitive practice. So it's like I
right.
can't just do it once. It's like I have to like do it over
Yeah.
and over and over again.
And
And
that's probably part of the problem is I would only do it when I needed a cover. And,
Mhm.
so when you're going 3 months in between before you forget a lot and having to
Uh-huh.
relearn every single time. I was like, I just,
Mhm.
so no, it's by far better. And it would take so long, like so long.
Yes, I have some covers. So I have some clients that have been with me for years, and every once in a while they'll have a cover that we did a couple of years ago that they need changes to, or they've finally written and they need the paperback for it. And I will pull up those old files and I cringe at how I used to do things versus how I do them now. Like I'm like, oh, I remember this took me forever, and now it's like so quick and easy because I have this shortcut or how
Yeah.
I have it organized and the file. So I look at my growth and I'm like, oh, I'm glad that I've grown, but I also am like, oh my gosh, why did I do it that way?
But that's how we are, right? And even in
Yeah.
life, hopefully,
Yep.
it's our
We learn.
character arc, character
Yes.
arc, our growth pattern. Um, so if there's a person out there who aspires to do to like one day get you as a cover designer, but they want to do their own images
Yeah.
for like what do you recommend? What is the best to work with? Or how is the best way for them to get the pictures?
Like for stock photos to,
Yes.
to use. Okay. Well, I will say that having quality images, quality stock photos or custom photographs or whatever is like massively important.
Do you
So
prefer
like
raw?
I can work with raw. Raw is definitely easier to manipulate
Is it okay?
colors
Good to
and
know.
things. but they're also huge files. So
Mhm.
sometimes they're hard to, to move around, to transfer between um, author and designer
Yeah.
and stuff. But I can work with other files too, JPEG and TIFF and whatnot. I can pretty much make any file work. It's just like having good quality is like the best. And lighting is super important in any photograph, in any image. And because you can add lighting effects and stuff to designs, but it's really hard to take away lighting effects. So like, if there's harsh shadows or sun glare, like those are more difficult to work with, unless you just have like a whole image. Like I'm talking about composites. I guess it's difficult to work with those when you're taking like the model from this picture and the background from this
Right.
picture. It's like those are like lighting and things are you have to think about.
Um, Heck, seriously, I just did it again. Um, so, oh, I remember. Phew. We had this
Yay!
conversation. Well, it wasn't really a conversation, it was a messenger text back and forth. But
Uh-huh.
something I've been seeing a lot lately is doing other things with your covers.
Oh, right. Like swag and stuff.
Licensing agreements.
Yes.
What usually falls under your general licensing agreement with a book that I
Okay.
like, a cover I get from you?
Okay, that's a great question. So, most of the covers that I design use stock images from several different sites that I purchase
Yeah.
rights to and everything. And those licenses cover like I make sure that the ones that I license, they have worldwide rights. They have rights for ebook, for print distribution, for audiobook. Um, so that's kind of a standard license. So that means that that you can do the book cover, and then you
Mhm.
can use that cover for other marketing things, for ads, for um, you can use it for bookmarks as long as you're not selling the bookmarks. If it's strictly like marketing stuff that you give away, like that's
Mhm.
covered under it. If it's anything for resale besides the book, so like audiobook, ebook, paperback book, those are all like you're actually purchasing the book. But if you're doing anything else that you have to purchase with that book cover, so if you're doing t-shirts or keychains or like a stationery set, anything that you would resell that is not the book is not covered under a standard license. So those require extended licenses, and that's something that is usually offered, but it's expensive, and
Yeah.
especially if you're working with a cover that is a composite of like 5 different images. I mean, you're looking at buying extended license for 5 different images for
Right.
those things, and so yeah,
And if you've looked at Shutterstock or any of the stock images, you can see those are fairly pricey to get
they
extended.
are. Yeah, you're usually looking at a couple $100 per
Yeah,
image. So
per image.
yeah, and it's not even exclusive. Like
Yeah,
it's not like you get to use that photo and no one else. So
right. Well, and
yeah.
you look at that, I mean, there might be some people who might be able to sell enough merchandise to cover $1,000 worth of extended license,
Right.
but that's a lot.
It is.
Okay, so that's awesome. That's good to know. And like I said, it's one I've seen. Actually, it's really interesting because sometimes you see posts secular, right? You'll see
Mhm.
them like heavy, and then you won't see them again for a year or so, and then and
Mhm.
right now that's one that's going around quite a bit. I guess that
Yeah.
there are some people who have found their stuff being sold,
Mhm.
swag stuff being sold on Etsy, and so now if that were the case, if someone you didn't even know was doing it, who's liable for that? Do you know?
Well, it would be the person who's doing it illegally, but that's not always who who they go to. Like if
Yeah.
someone like if an artist who knows that you didn't purchase an extended license to their image or whatever, if they see something for sale, they're going to come after you. They're going to come
Right.
after, like, oh, well, this is your book. So and they're going to go after the author. They're not going to go after the designer. So, I mean, it's
So
not like the author's fault, but you're the one that they're going to
yeah,
contact.
so I would guess that if you're seeing that, you should probably contact them and say, no,
Yes,
you can't do this.
absolutely.
To cover your own hiney, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the only questions I have that I can still remember. Anything you want to touch on that we didn't cover about covers?
Um, Not really. I guess,
Important.
you know, from an author perspective, like, it's really great if you can look at your designer like as a partner in like as a marketing partner in your plans for your book. And with partners, you don't ever really want to give, you don't want one to take, all of the responsibility or all of the decision making. You really want to work together. It really works great when you have, authors that have ideas and suggestions and designers who are willing to work with that, and but then bring their expertise of what they know from the market. And there are a lot of authors who do a lot of their own research and who can come to the table and say, hey, I've noticed that this is a new trend. I'd like to, redo my covers in this style or design. And, and that's great because then you're on the same page. But there's also a lot of authors who don't follow or know any of that stuff and who come and they're like, I want, polka dots and zebras and lemons on my front cover because those are all so important in my story. And the designer's gonna be like, uh,
I want an
that
American
might
and a
not work.
British flag.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and sometimes I will say that sometimes I've had clients come to me with an idea and I think in my head I'm like, oh, this is not going to work. But I'll do it because they want to see it. And sometimes it does work, but that is the exception. A lot
Yeah,
of
of course.
times if an author comes and says, hey, I really want to try this idea, if the designer's like, I don't think that's a great idea, then maybe it's just something to think about. I will, like, if my I I will usually push back once if I think something's not a good idea. But if the author's insistent, then I'm like, okay, well, I will do it and I will show you and then let you decide. And yeah.
So would you prefer to have someone say, I want something like this, and this, or would you rather him say, you know what ideas do you have? Which do you prefer?
Oh, that's a good question. So whenever I have new clients, I have like a form that I have them fill out, and one of the things that I request is 2 to 3 book covers in the same genre that they like the style of, because that gives me an idea of kind of either the style they're going for or what their preferences are, and so I can take that information along with the information they give me about maybe specific things that they would want or like to see on a cover, and then I can kind of get an idea of kind of what they're looking for. I personally prefer to have, so I like to have an idea, but then I like to be given more creative license because, this is my job, this is my career,
Mm-hmm.
and it's my job to know like what looks good,
Right.
what hits the trends, like, and so if you let me do my job, I'm going to do better at it than if you tell me how to do my job.
Right.
So, yeah, that's kind of how it
Because
goes.
I know when I get my hair cut, I'm always just like, it's your job, your profession. You tell me what will look good on me.
Your
And
hair
then,
always looks fabulous, Mindy.
oh yeah, no, it like needs a haircut. And so she just trimmed my bangs because I have a conference in June and I don't want
Mhm,
to like get it all done now because then it will be too grown out for June. There's a whole lot of
mhm.
planning that has to be done.
There is totally planning
So I
with
went the other
haircuts.
day and was like, just trim my bangs, but it still is a little, yeah. So, so we're just living with it. And there you go. And I might just cut it all off and dye it red again. Who knows?
There you go.
When you have short hair, what else do you do, right?
Or purple,
Or
purple
purple.
looks
I
good.
did love the purple, but I might have reached the age that purple is not good anymore. It just might look like I'm clinging to my youth with claws. I don't know. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, well, it was lovely chatting with you.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me.
Really interesting. I always love talking to you about covers. Makes
Yeah,
me
it's
feel artsy.
well, I love talking covers. I've taught several classes on cover design, and even if you aren't looking into like learning how to do it yourself, it's like it's always
Yeah.
good to like understand the different elements that go into cover design and how it works and what to watch out for. So
Well, and no greater lie was ever told than you don't judge a book by its cover.
yeah,
That is
because you
like,
totally judge a book
oh,
by its
you
cover.
totally
That's
do.
what you're supposed to do.
I know.
That's what
And
I
it
do. Like
has
I'm
rarely
such a
led me
cover snob.
astray. Rarely has it
Yep.
led me astray.
I
So,
I will say I've had a few books that the covers were just gorgeous and I was so excited and then I felt totally cheated because the book was awful.
I
And I'm
only
just
have
like,
like
but
two.
you have such a pretty cover.
That's
But
not
hey,
fair.
it did what it's supposed to do. It got me to buy the book.
Exactly.
So
So, yeah. No,
yep.
cover design is super important. And it's one of those that when I talk to new authors and they're like, I don't know that I can afford a cover designer. And I'm like, I don't know that you can't afford a cover
Yep.
designer. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. And I'm not sure you can afford to not have a good editor.
Yep.
Those two things I think can make or break your book.
Yep. I would
So,
agree 100%.
and I also think if you do your research and look hard enough, you'll be able to find someone within your price range.
Yeah. Yep. And there's a whole spectrum. I mean, there are plenty of
Mhm.
designers out there who are worth far more than they charge. And there are plenty of designers out there who are not worth half of what they charge.
Yeah,
But there's all in between.
yeah,
I think on any budget you can find a decent designer to get a decent cover, at least starting out. And then when you've made some money back, then you can put it into, you know, a better designer or a better cover if that's what you want to do.
yeah.
So,
Good suggestion. It's been lovely chatting with you.
yeah, you too.
Don't forget, everyone, to subscribe so that you can see these fabulous interviews that I beg people to come and chat with me about. And anyway, we will see you the next time. Bye bye.
Bye.